Yeah, never been a lazy person. I always wanted to try to do things as ethical as possible. So, I always wanted to work, even when I was, younger than that, I wanted to work and do small things and, do chores around the house and go help people out, So, I knew that, if I wanted something in life, I was going to have to work for it, so I wasn't afraid to put that work in.
Quick aside about nothing, me moment. When you mentioned doing chores, man, my mom beat me one time. Right? And she beat me because, in hindsight, I was really stupid, but I might have been 7 or 8. Maybe, no, I say 6 or 7. And I was trying to be nice. So I was doing some stuff around the house just out of the goodness of my heart. And she paid me for it. And I was like, nah, I don't want the money. She was like, no, take the money. She was teaching me a principle, but it wasn't really a full conversation. It's like, take the money. So I took the money and I cut it up. And right, that face right there, that face right there says, wow. You know how that story ended.
Yeah.
But she beat me, and my dad told her she couldn't do it again. Wow. That's how it was. So my mom goes from here to there. Like there's only, most people know one side of it. Right? Like she could never. But I say that it was true, but I say it in just in terms of understanding money principles early. Like, how do you think that has impacted? You mentioned opening a bank account early. I think I've been a member at the credit union for 38 years. I'm 44. So my mom kind of did that too, right? And at the time I didn't understand it, but she was like, we put $5 or $10 a week, like we increased it as we could. And early on, I'm thinking that's nothing. But now understanding that I got 5 kids and what that can do and how it can compound makes a lot of sense. What's good, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Blueprint series, where we have conversations from the intersection of family and finance. I'm one of your hosts, D. John.
Philip Washington Jr.
Today, by this episode, you know the drill. Only the best of the best on the show. We got the good brother, Kevin Butler. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good, D, man. Appreciate you guys having me today.
Glad you made it here, man. So for those, we got a few people that have been sleeping under a rock, right? So they might not know who you are.
Okay.
How do you present yourself to others when you're asked?
Well, my name is Kevin Butler. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. I grew up in Oakland, California. I've been here in Dallas, Texas now for the last 17 years, since 2006. I'm currently an owner of a construction company, Butler and Butler Construction. And we also own a commercial masonry company, Butler and Butler Masonry. And then I do some small developments in real estate as well.
Oh, casually. Casually. We're going to get into all of that, man. Okay. First, you kind of started laying out your origin story a little bit. Mississippi to Oakland. Compare and contrast that. Kind of walk us through that.
Man, yeah. So 2 totally different spectrums of the world. So Mississippi, kind of my southern roots, very hospitable state. It's where my mom and my dad are both from. So I'm born there, but we moved there at an early age to California. My mom had an aunt who didn't have any kids. My mom is one of 11. Ooh. So the aunt who didn't have any kids asked my grandma, could she raise my mom? And so she raised my mom in California where she was at. So
wow.
Yeah.
Favorite part about Oakland?
Favorite part about Oakland, man, just a lot of memories, right? So, a lot of my friends I met there that I'm still very close to today. And I think just Oakland, just being a kind of a gritty city, kind of instilled some principles in me that help me be successful today in life. So just understanding how to navigate, how to come through some adverse situations. Understanding just how to connect with people, and I think it's kind of helped me to become successful to this day too.
Very dope, man. We went to a festival, a music festival in Napa last year, but we spent some time in Oakland. Very first time going there, and it was just like what I took away was the pride in us, right? Absolutely. It was Black people were willing to help, just kind of like navigate, stay away from there, go over here, hit some spots to eat, and very, it feels like, even as a visitor, it's kind of like tight knit.
Absolutely.
Like what are some of the principles from growing up in Oakland that specifically contribute to how you operate, either as a man or as a businessman, or how you live life?
Well, I would definitely agree with you. So, a lot of people don't understand, but Oakland is one of the originations of the Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that live in Oakland that have a lot of Southern roots, people that have migrated from Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, that migrated to California. So even though Oakland's a West Coast city, It has a lot of Southern roots in its origin, and just strong, eclectic people that have, outside the box thinking. So they're very prideful in their culture. And I think the things that I took away from being in Oakland was that even though I was a young Black person, that I could still make it and become somebody. And those were, I think, things that were instilled in me from coming from that particular place. So.
Would you say Oakland has because every area has its own distinct flavor, but does it have it feels to me, I've never been, but the way people describe it, it feels like Oak Cliff here.
It is, man. So, there's a huge African-American population in Oakland. I think the city of Oakland maybe has about 450,000 people in it, but it's a predominantly African-American city. And, just people just have a mindset of, working hard. Obviously, areas, that are poverty stricken, they're going to have some rough areas and things like that. So it's not exempt from anything like that. But the people that come from there, man, they're intelligent people. They're hardworking folks, man. I think just, ideally for me, the hospitable part of me from coming from Mississippi, and then just understanding the grit, hard work, pridefulness, coming from Oakland kind of, synergized me to become who I am. So, yeah.
That's dope.
What were the money conversations? I don't think we got into who was in your house. You mentioned your aunt raised your mom.
Right.
Who was in your house, and what were like the money dynamics in terms of conversation and exposure to what money is?
Yeah. So my mom and my dad divorced early. So that's why we left and went back to California, because my mom, being raised in California, she was more comfortable with California. So for me, my mom really instilled a lot of principles in me. And then when I came back to Dallas later on, which we'll get to that part later on also too, that's when the business and the construction side of me kind of took off. But I started working at the age of 11. I worked for the Oakland Tribune. They would pick us up on Sundays, and we would sell newspapers in front of restaurants. So, at an early age, I started making money. There wasn't a ton of money, but it was instilling a work ethic in me. I think I opened up my first bank account when I was 13, started saving money, and just kind of, that entrepreneur spirit in me was, hey, I got to go get it done, so, and even going to college, I knew my mom really couldn't afford it. So my mindset was different. I knew I needed to help her out. I need to get a job. I need to make sure that, if I want to go to college, that she doesn't have to pay for me to go to college. So I knew that very early on. So it kind of helped with my work ethic and mindset.
Gotcha.
So early on, it was you picked up money. Would you say I feel like part of it might be instinctual, but part of it was also like just necessity, like grit. You're like, hey man, I gotta get it. I'm not gonna be broke.
Right. Yeah, never been a lazy person. I always wanted to try to do things as ethical as possible. So, I always wanted to work. Even when I was, younger than that, I wanted to work and do small things and do chores around the house and go help people out. So. I knew that, if I wanted something in life, I was going to have to work for it, so I wasn't afraid to put that work in.
Quick aside about nothing. Me moment. When you mentioned doing chores, man, my mom beat me one time. Right? And she beat me because, in hindsight, I was really stupid, but I might have been 7 or 8. Maybe, no, I say 6 or 7. And I was trying to be nice. So I was doing some stuff around the house just out of the goodness of my heart. And she paid me for it. And I was like, nah, I don't want the money. She was like, no, take the money. She was teaching me a principle, but it wasn't really a full conversation. It's like, take the money. So I took the money and I cut it up. And right, that face right there, that face right there says, wow. You know how that story ended.
Yeah.
But she beat me. And my dad told her she couldn't do it again. Wow. That's how it was. Yeah. So my mom goes from here to there. Like most people know one side of it. Right? It's like she could never. But I say that it was true, but I say it in just in terms of understanding money principles early. Like, how do you think that has impacted? You mentioned opening a bank account early. I think I've been a member at the credit union for 38 years. Wow. I'm 44. So my mom kind of did that too, right? And at the time I didn't understand it, but she was like, we put $5 or $10 a week, like we increased it as we could. And early on, I'm thinking that's nothing. But now understanding that I got 5 kids and what that can do and how it can compound makes a lot of sense. And they weren't the most money literate, right? So you getting those principles early, how do you think it has sustained like your business mindset, just having that foundation?
Yeah, I think it's been tremendous for me. I think, most people that look like us, we don't really get those, money principles and foundations at an age where we can implement them, So for me, just going through the things I went through in life, definitely has shaped our company to this day, to become successful, to be able to sustain through periods of COVID and ups and downs. And, you know, yeah, I think, those are just things that, most oftentimes, in our community, it's not often talked about, so even for yourself, being able to do those things with your mom, that was a blessing. Those are things that we don't normally do, So, I'm super thankful that I was able to get those principles. And, to this day, I understand, money's currency is supposed to flow. I understand that, if you're not responsible with it, it will leave you, and just different things like that. And then investing, right? You talked about compounded interest, also too. And, the earlier that we can do that, in life, how better off we will be, but, I appreciate, the things that I went through. I appreciate, the knowledge that I learned from, just talking to people, especially older people. So my dad was very influential in that part of it for me on the business side. And then I had a cousin who was involved in real estate who was very influential on that side as well too. So
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. So if you don't mind, like elaborate, because I was going to ask, what were the early meaningful conversations where you began to like leveled up your understanding of money?
So I think like with my cousin, I started to understand credit, understanding how valuable credit was, that, there's a risk business with lending money. There's, understanding if you don't have it, you have to, either save it up or you have to be able to establish credit, So I think for me, being responsible with my credit was super important. Understanding, credit scores and FICOs and how those things work. I'm understanding how to, build more credit and things like that. And then just kind of understanding the principles of real estate as well, too. I think it was just super important, for me.
And when did those conversations happen with your uncle and your cousin and your dad?
So they happened pretty early. When I was in college, I would say around my sophomore year, I started to understand that, hey, if this basketball thing doesn't work out, because I played college basketball, that I got to have something to fall back on, and I was always really, business oriented, but just really trying to understand, hey, next level, if this plan A doesn't work out for me, how can I, still be successful in life? And so that kind of sparked my interest in, talking to him about real estate and about credit. And a lot of those conversations came up at that point.
Mm.
I'm glad you mentioned basketball because you kind of framed out the story of you knew you had to figure out how to get to college, right? And then it was kind of a gap. I wanted to jump back to it. So basketball, was it like full ride or?
Full ride scholarship. I played Division I basketball at the University of California, Riverside.
Okay. What was your, trying to ask it the right way, what was your, like how far did it take you and how satisfied are you or were you with that ride?
Yeah, so I feel like basketball really saved me. And we didn't really talk about, the bad sides of Oakland, right? But there's obviously things that, people my age were getting into that, led to, not promising paths, but I think basketball kind of kept me in an area where, kept me in a positive environment, kept me around good people, allowed me to travel, and then put me around some really good mentors, my coaches. At that point in time, my dad wasn't really involved in my life, but I had a lot of mentors that really, really poured into me, instilled in me discipline and work ethics, just focus, teamwork, just how to compete. And I think a lot of those principles, helped build my life skills to be successful in life too. So basketball really is super important to me. And even to this day, I have an AAU basketball program that I use as a ministry to give back to kids because I feel like a lot of the kids that I coach now were me. And that's my way to kind of give back, as well. So
this is a random question, but it's been forming as we've been talking, and it's been a theme in all the people in Oak Cliff that we've interviewed.
Oak Cliff is a big thing.
Because me and my wife were just talking about, and I'm talking about it, and I'm gonna say it I'm saying it in a I'm just laying out the facts of the situation, right? Like the whole Russell Wilson thing. You know what I'm saying? Who I celebrate him because he's a successful black man, but the culture is like not behind him. Like his teammates, like the culture, he on Twitter congratulating his wife and they in the comments just ragging on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, which is part of what comes in the territory, but the culture don't accept him. And I go, and then you dig into the past and you hear about it, you go, oh, okay. Like there's one aspect of success that is like success. And then there's the other aspect of success in the current perspective of the world where it's becoming more brown, where it's success without leaving the culture behind. And so I'm noticing a theme where the ones that are successful and thriving and doing it in a way where they haven't forgot the culture, like the culture loves them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then the ones that have become successful and, it's not partially not their fault. They just don't speak the language of the culture. Like the culture is like, not connected to them. Y'all see
I can
that?
definitely see that. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, people, we evolve, so
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be exposed to things, as a professional athlete that, maybe you weren't exposed to, growing up. And then sometimes people where you come from, they might not understand those levels, So, but I think, at the end of the day, you should never forget where you come from. But at the same time frame, people have to understand that people do evolve. And that doesn't mean that, even though that, we change places in life that, we're still not cool anymore, or that I'm not, socially acceptable no more, or I can't go back to my hood or wherever I came from or whatever that might be, but it just means that, I've evolved and I'm growing a little bit. And, hopefully at the end of the day, you don't forget where you come from at the same time, and you still can, reach back and, help somebody else out that's, that looks like you.
Something you said that jumped out at me because like my ministry is in the fatherhood space, and it's less about me being an expert. Like I'm not an expert father. I'm just a willing example of how I'm doing life and what's working and what's not working. And it's kind of resonating with people. But you mentioned your dad wasn't there at that time. Can we pry a little bit, kind of understand when that shift happened?
Yeah, so we were I was about 3, and I have 2 other sisters who we share the same mom and dad, and then my dad had 3 previous kids before that. So my dad had 6 kids by the age of 30, and he was a very successful businessman in construction. So my dad was a commercial masonry contractor, so he did brick, block, and stone. It was very successful in an early age. Obviously, sometimes with money, people get caught up in the wrong things. So my dad got caught up in drugs, and that kind of separated, us from our dad as a family. So my mom and my dad divorced. So from the age of, I would say probably 4 to about the age of 21, I was not around my dad at all. My dad was homeless. He was in the streets, and so there was a lot of things different dynamics that, separated us from our father. But as a kid, man, I would pray for my dad every day, man. That God would keep my dad, that He would cover him, He would protect him. And man, when I finished school, I decided to move back to Texas. So I was telling you guys about my cousin who was heavily involved in the real estate. And so they actually found my dad, man. After so many years of being homeless and on the streets and things like that, and I ended up deciding that I was going to move back to Texas. I thought coming out of college, coming out of high school, that I was going to go to the University of Texas to play basketball. So I had probably about 6 or 7 offers from Utah State.
That was around the time when Kevin Durant was there, right?
Well, that was before Kevin Durant. So it was when TJ Ford. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I mean, we played against him.
Did you?
Because I was in this district.
Yeah.
And we were like the sorry school.
Right.
I thought it would be a revelation. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
What's going on?
But yeah, no, Rick Barnes was the coach then, man. So I mean, I thought I was going there. I mean, I told New Mexico no. Fran Fraschilla was the coach there. But I thought I was coming to Texas at that point in time. Something always brought me to come to Texas. I never knew what it was. But, we lived here at one point in time, but I was always fascinated and felt like my heart was still in Texas. So with my cousin being here in real estate and my dad being here, I felt like it was an opportunity for us to rekindle and reconnect. So I moved out here January 12th, 2006, stayed with my cousin, and my dad was there. And I always had, my cousin was involved in real estate. And so I was at the time wanting to, maybe start building some houses, knew nothing about construction at all. Obviously it's 2006, 2007. So, the market was kind of starting to dip in on the real estate side. And so after the market kind of dipped, my dad, I was thinking about either going overseas to go play basketball. 'Cause at the time I'm 25, 26, I'm in the best shape of my life, still playing, working out every day. So I was going to leave here and go back to California. And that's when my dad was like, well, if you want to get into construction, you might as well get onto the commercial side of things. And me not knowing, like, at the time, what levels and heights my dad was on construction. on the masonry side. I'm just thinking, we were just talking, shooting the breeze, man. Man, you've been homeless, and I mean, you lost everything. Like, man, I was the youngest of the kids too, so not understanding the heights that he had reached and what he had still knew, and
So did he have the business and lose it in his spiral and get it back, or was the business after the spiral?
So it went dormant, man. So once, he got involved in drugs and things like that, man, the business went dormant, for some years, So, so in 2006, I reincorporated everything, but still I was just still doing houses and things like that because, my cousin was on the real estate side. So I'm like, okay, I can, fix some houses up here and there, or, maybe do some new builds and things like that. But then the market kind of, crashed. We didn't make any money at the time because, we were building houses at cost and having to sell them at cost to, even break even, Oh,
because of 06 time period.
Yeah.
That's when it was getting crazy. Yeah.
But man, it was a blessing in disguise, man, because for me, I was able to be around my dad, and he had a wealth of knowledge, man. I didn't understand it at the time, but what I was able to get from him, and for him, it was his opportunity to pay it back. The time that we had missed and the gap that we had. And I remember him always telling me some things. He said, if I didn't do a lot of things in my life right, but I know I did this right here. Meaning, he gave me a opportunity to be able to fish for myself. And so we would spend a lot of time, man. He would show me how to read blueprints and. Show me how to lay block and brick, just the things that I needed to know. And for a while, I thought, man, are you trying to scare me from getting into this? But he was like, no, these are the things that you need to know. These are the things, if you get these things here, that you're going to be all right and be successful. So, man, my dad became my best friend, man. He lived with me. I spent every day with him, man, for 12 years, man. He passed away in 2018. But, man, the knowledge and tutelage he gave me and instilled in me, I couldn't gain it in a lifetime, man. I mean, the dude was super sharp. And I know he would tell me all the time that, God can use a donkey, you never know.
He can speak.
Right. Absolutely, man. So he was able to, despite of the things my dad went through in life, that knowledge, that tutelage, that, the experience that he had, man, it never left him, man. And he was able to pour that into me and my brother, so.
Nah, that's dope, man. Do y'all watch that show called Naruto?
Hadn't seen it yet.
Hey, man, it's good because it's a lot of that. It's a lot of like, like they'll have like these previous teachers that had some major flaw. You know what I'm saying? But that teacher will pass on their wisdom to them, and then they will love. So it goes through his teachers passing on to him, and then he passes it to all of his peers, and then he becomes the leader, and then it starts the next generation where then his son, he has a son, and then right, his son doesn't have his flaws, right, because we learned all of his flaws in 1,000 episodes, but his son is a mix between him and his mom, which his mom covers his flaws, right, and then he evolves with this. So I'm like, when you said that, I was like, man, that's pretty dope. Your dad just transferred his essence to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, it's a trip, man, because I think about even like principles of the Bible, man, like, and most people that God used in the Bible had some type of flaw. Yeah. Paul was a killer.
Yeah, I was saying all, but Paul specifically.
Yeah, man. Moses couldn't speak. Stuttered.
And he was angry. He was an angry guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, so everybody had some type of issue, some type of problem, man. But God was able to use them in a way that was, able to transition, the world, man. And it's, sometimes we often overlook people sometimes, and we judge a book by its cover sometimes, man. And for me, that was just one of the best blessings I could get in my life was spending time around him and learning from him.
Yeah, that's dope.
Was there a process of forgiveness, and when and how did it happen? Because in my mind, you said you prayed for him often. It seems like you were already in the process of forgiving him, so that when he came back into your life. But I don't want to. No.
I mean, I appreciate you asking that. And me being the youngest, so there's 6 of us total. And my brother, who I'm partners with today in my business, he's 12 years older than me. So, me not really seeing some of the things that they saw, I think probably I had a different perspective and outlook on, my dad. So I didn't really see some of the things that, prior were in the negative connotation that he probably did. And it's more me saying, hey, I'm yearning for my father. more so than them kind of being a little older and kind of seeing some of the things, that the pathways he went down based on, the things he was doing at the time, they kind of had a little bit more resentment, probably, I would say, than I probably did. So, yeah, I think that was kind of the cool thing because even though I think some of them probably looked at him differently, I think when he came back into, our lives and the way that I accepted him and then was able to benefit from those things, I think it kind of opened up their hearts more to him as well too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that was a blessing, man. What do you think? What did you personally like evolve from what he taught you, right? Because now, right, you started with the construction business, but now you're doing a lot. Like you're investing, you're developing. Like how'd you evolve the knowledge and build on top of?
Yeah, so man, I think him planting that seed on the construction side, my cousin planting that seed on the real estate side. I think kind of galvanizing those two industries together kind of sparked an interest in me to say, what can I do on a bigger level that would be able to touch more people. And so for me, the next evolution for me was the development side of it. So I started studying developments and acquisitions and rezoning, replats, and just anything on the development perspective. Because I felt at the end of the day, me being able to control a project, I can control the equitable opportunities that could be given to people. Who would be the architect, who would be the engineer, who would be the contractor. And for me, we have to be intentional, because as a people, I think we're behind the eight ball in a lot of things, and so we have to really be intentional to one help people get to certain levels where they can be able to provide for their families. And most people look out for people that look like themselves, because at the end of the day, if we don't, who will, So for me, I wanted to create, economies of scale and be able to impact my community. And I felt what better way than to do that by, creating a development, It's going to create, tax basis. It's going to create jobs. It's going to create, just equitable opportunities, for myself and for others. So.
Well, so let me ask you this. This is my selfish investment thesis, and you in the world. So like I feel like, man, the world is changing, and you mentioned earlier like biases, resentment, previous opinions, blocking the ability to see the beauty unfolding. And so I feel like if you and I walk into certain restaurants here in Mansfield, and one of them particularly is partially Black owned, we won't be treated with the same level of respect as a traditional Mansfield person that we make more money than,
Right.
You know what I'm saying, because of how we look.
Right.
And that's prevalent like that. So, I'm using that example because one of these owners is part Black, but he's from a previous generation and can't see the world for like what it is.
Right.
So I'm saying it to say, to me, in my mind, I go, that triggers a development opportunity because there are businesses like Man and Juice Bar, whiskeys, that are expressing a high quality experience, because Man and Juice is not inexpensive, right? Neither is whiskey drinks, but they're thriving and making money because they're building businesses around what previous generations said they said you can't build this for Black people because you got to build chicken and chicken, and I love chicken, by the way. Like, I'm not discounting chicken. Like, I'm a chicken connoisseur. You know what I'm saying? But you had to do chicken, or you had to do what is that? The lending shuttle. You had to be a loan shark. But I'm like, that changed.
Yeah.
This generation, and there's not enough businesses to support our money.
Right.
I mean, do you feel the same, man?
I agree, man. I think, man, Dallas, Texas, and just Texas in general, man, there's a lot of successful African Americans, especially in this Mansfield, Cedar Hill, Midlothian area, man. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people that look like us that are very successful for, businesses to be able to, support and to serve, So I think if people aren't, catering to, to us as a people and people that are successful, I think they're missing the boat on a lot of those things. So I think it definitely needs to be more acceptable, for people that have, the old way of thinking. I think they'll lose out on a lot of opportunities that exist today, by, not catering to people that look like us that are successful. Man, Dallas is an awesome place to be. Meeting people like yourselves that, think outside the box, that are super smart and sharp, that, goal oriented, and that are doing, great things, man. It's a great place to be for sure.
We're going to take a break right now, hear from a sponsor. We'll be right back.
If you want to hit a home run, you have to be invested in something that you fully believe in, and that even though it's relatively immature today, you see where it's going, you believe in it, you commit your capital, and you allow it time to mature. This episode is sponsored by the Wealth Building Made Simple podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other major podcasting platform.
We are back with the good brother, Kevin Butler. Amazing conversation so far. I want to dive back into the development opportunity that you were just kind of laying out. And I'm curious as to how you saw that as the opportunity. Did you have experience with the individual components of it? Like you worked here a little bit, you worked in this aspect a little bit, or did you just understand the opportunity for what it was?
I think it was a little bit of both, right? So I think I understood the opportunity for what it was, but I started to learn those principles being around people like my dad, my cousin. I knew that, at the end of the day, you know, to be able to see something, to have a vision for things that people often overlook. A lot of these things are, raw land that people pass by every day. They can't see an exit strategy. They can't see a vision for what it is. And now I don't know what it was, but maybe it was something that God placed inside of me, that was a purpose or a gift or whatever. But I was able to see some things that I think that maybe other people overlooked. So I think that's kind of how it started for me. But then I didn't know much about it, but I studied a lot. So one of my things is research, studying, trying to make sure I get up before people do. So I wake up every morning at 4:00 in the morning. Still, yeah, without an alarm clock or anything like that. I mean, a lot of time that's when I'm doing my best thinking, my best research. I feel like God speaks to me a lot clearer. I can kind of hear things without the noise going on. So for me, I would do a lot of research, especially at those times of the morning, and just kind of preparing my day, but yeah, didn't know much about, development, but studied, acquisitions, studied, just rezoning, replats. Studied banks also too, because at the end of the day, having access to capital was super important. And, granted, it helped too that, we were a successful construction company starting to make money. And I think that kind of helped with our relationships with the bank, but still understanding how to leverage more of what the bank had to offer and to be able to do bigger deals. So,
yeah.
So, my God meter, I think you're at 17 times mentioning God.
Yes.
Which I'm a fan of.
Okay.
In jest, people, I don't have a God meter. How does faith play into who you are as a man and who you are in business?
My faith is super important to me. I think at the end of the day, I think, purpose, purpose always comes to mind with me. I feel like God, and people call him God, people call him Allah. I respect everyone's religion, no matter what it may be, everybody, but I think that we're all created with a purpose and with a gift. I don't think, I call him God, somebody else may call him Allah, somebody else might call him Buddha, whatever it might be. I think your creator has created you for a purpose and with a gift, and I think ultimately, at the end of the day, some people may have a gift of singing. Some people may have a gift of, being able to speak eloquently. Some people may have a gift of being an athlete. Some people, there's various gifts that we all have, I think people are at their optimal levels when they can utilize that gift that they have to not only benefit themselves, but to be able to bless other people. I think that's when we're in our optimal alignment and you're truly at your maximum level being blessed when you're utilizing your gift to bless others, so.
How do you know it's your gift from your perspective?
I think for me, I think it's just things that come naturally sometimes, right? There's things that sometimes you don't have to work for, I think that's why it's called a gift, because it's given, right? So, and that's why sometimes when people are seeing, you as Philip, on the financial wealth planning side and say, hey man, Philip's successful doing that, and I want to do that also too, but that may not be their gift. So when they try to do it, they're not as successful as you are because it's not their gift. Their gift may be doing something else, maybe hosting a podcast or maybe, playing basketball, wherever they may be. But I think oftentimes people get, crossed up, by trying to, feed off of someone else's gift because they see them being successful at it and not understanding that they have a gift for themselves also.
Crossed up basketball
No,
reference.
good devil on top.
I saw it in my head, man. Let's get into the business, man. So we kind of understand the backstory. Your father is the wealth of information.
Right.
See what I did there? Wealth of information.
J. Cole spirit in the room.
D, I'll take that. I'll take that. We're gonna talk. Okay, I'll stay off that. Kind of walk us through the stages of the business, right? Because it was your dad had the knowledge. He was coming out of a phase of his life, kind of working through. You guys connected. There was a synergy that created this business. How did it start? How did it fare? You mentioned making it through COVID.
Right.
Like kind of talk through some of those highs and lows.
Absolutely. So when we first started in about 2008 on the commercial masonry side, I feel like, my dad just kind of really advanced the model for us, because there were some things that we didn't have to go through. We didn't have to, learn or have to reinvent the wheel on some things, but still being new in the industry, there was a lot that I had to learn and pick up on, from, understanding, how to read blueprints and understanding, how to pursue projects and understanding how to, manage those projects and be successful on them as well too. So we actually had some guys that my dad taught back home in Mississippi, who actually, they're not related to us, but they have the same last name. So they actually were in the masonry industry still and still had crews and things like that. So when I first started, even though I didn't have a crew ready to go, I actually brought them up from Mississippi and they actually helped us perform those first projects. And this is back in 2008. I think I did a concession football stadium for Keller ISD. So we did the concession stands, we did the press box, and we did the ticket booths over there. So it was probably a $400,000 contract at the time, but we subbed that work out. But I was able to learn, with my dad being there and then kind of having guys that were kind of like relatives, that my dad had taught that were still doing the business, that allowed us to kind of, get off the ground, get a contract going. And then for me to kind of learn on my first project, with my dad by my side. So at that point, I really got, my passion, I think, from basketball and things I learned from that really kind of drove me to, bid jobs, at, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, not get very much sleep. But my passion was burning inside of me for the business to really grow and for it to be to the levels where, my dad probably would have had it if he hadn't got sidetracked, So for me, having him around me to support me, to kind of coach me and push me, but then those things that, I had within myself too, I think really helped our business kind of take off and get to the next level. And he was able to see a lot of our growth, before he passed away too. So that was kind of a cool thing.
I bet that made him feel good.
Man, yeah, he would never tell us, right? Me and my brother, to in our face, he would be like, you guys, aren't doing this right, not doing that. But behind the scenes, he would be bragging to people, family members and other people, how proud he was of us, that we had, took the business and, and grew up to levels that, he wanted to get to.
That's how that generation spoke love. You know what I'm saying? They was like, I love you if what the coaches say, if I ain't yelling at you, that mean I don't like you.
Right. Right. That's right. Yeah, I agree, man. So it's kind of a cool deal, man. So, yeah, but so we started on the masonry side, but I've always had goals and aspirations of expanding our business and scaling the business. So now, we do commercial masonry. That's our bread and butter. We're hands-on. We don't sub out any work or anything like that. We have about 50 people that work for us in the field right now. We have about 7 people in our office. And now we're starting to grow on the general construction side, on the commercial side. So right now we're doing joint ventures and teaming agreements with large prime contractors. So right now we're doing the Adult Active Center, which is a $50 million senior citizens recreation center in the city of Arlington, where we're partnered with Manhattan Construction. Okay. And then we have some pursuits coming up on some Dallas Convention Center stuff, some Cotton Bowl stuff. So really large project.
And Manhattan is like a national huge.
Yeah. They're the ones that built the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. They built the Texas Rangers baseball stadium. So we're partnering with firms like that to learn, best practices on that commercial side of things right now. So, man, Dallas is a great place to be. Texas is a great place to be. Perfect time for us to really scale our business on the on the commercial general contracting side as well too. And we're already starting to pick up some equitable opportunities there too.
And to give folks background on the podcast, and you can fill it in, and explain, like, Wall Street is to New York as developers are to Dallas.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I agree with that.
Yeah,
man.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Texas is full of land, but obviously, there's a lot of corporations moving here.
Too many.
A lot of people, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the population is growing too. A lot of these cities are experiencing some explosive growth right now. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of schools that have to be built. So a lot of our work on the masonry side is a lot of K through 12 stuff. I'd say probably about 50% of our work, but we do a lot of stuff at DFW Airport. We do a lot of federal work. We do some retail as well too. So we built Walmarts and Tractor Supplies and Winco food stores and just hotels.
Yeah.
So I got to jump back into my supply chain bag.
Okay.
So that's where I came from. That was my 20-something years in corporate. Made it to the executive space, so I could kind of see it from being a buyer to being a VP, right? So I kind of ran the whole spectrum, and that's purely for context. But one of the things that was always a challenge was supplier performance. So I imagine at some point you said, we don't subcontract anymore, but you mentioned prime contractors, and I came from the federal government side. So I know the importance of, as a prime contractor, having reliable subcontractors.
Right.
And the reliable ones at some point started to make sense as a joint venture or as a teammate.
Absolutely.
What were some of those things that differentiated your company from others that kind of accelerated you, if that's an appropriate description?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think our company started to become attractive towards those larger primes like the Manhattans and the Balfour Beatties, one through us working with them. So, we were a masonry contractor of theirs, right? So they had some experience in working with us and, how we manage our work and, the quality of work that we produce, how safe we were. And so I think there was some synergy there amongst the cultures. And I think, just developing those relationships too, right? So understanding, it's at the same time, hey, is this company going to be growing? What are their goals and things like that? So I think a lot of those things kind of lined up. And so, it was just the perfect timing for the perfect storm, but I just think that's being responsible, being ready, willing, and able, and at the same time, kind of aligned us up to be, prime candidates for those larger prime contractors. And I think the times is different too, right? So we have to understand the climate we're in too, diversity, equity, inclusion are huge now, right? There's a lot of people, mayors that look like us, city council members that look like us, school board members that look like us. And so, at the end of the day, we have a lot of people that are, in key roles, that want to see people that look like them, grow and have opportunities for prime contracts and to be able to evolve, because at the end of the day, if we don't, then how I'm going to tell this little kid, hey, you can be a successful, contractor, or you can be a successful, general contractor or developer when they have nobody that looks like them, So it's super important to make sure you reach back like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in that space, and I know from experience, like the government set asides, right?
Right.
So even if, like, I see a lot of pursuit or like making it popular or cool to pursue the contract directly with the government for their small business set asides, but you may have a $2 million opportunity direct with the government, and you may have a $30 million opportunity because the prime contract is $5 billion with the prime contractor. So the message is, don't miss the opportunity to be a sub,
Right.
just to say you're working. And a lot of times the sub gives you that experience that you need to work directly with the federals.
Yeah,
So,
those companies are successful for a reason, So I mean, just if you're trying to scale your business and trying to grow it, just those standard operating procedures that you learn, best practices. They have some of the sharpest people. So it would behoove you to not want to joint venture or team with those type of people and to be sponges to get some of that knowledge and tutelage on how you can be successful once you branch off to, become your own person,
Money flows downstream.
It does. Currency,
Man,
right?
Currency.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, you mentioned, and we have not talked about it off camera, but I'm curious about it because you mentioned, like, intuition. You didn't say intuition, but you said, man, I was driving and I saw something and I didn't have any background in it, but I just knew it would work. Like, how So you use intuition. I think it's one of our connection points because we're both pretty intuitive guys. But how do you activate it on purpose, or do you have a process for activating it on purpose?
Yeah, I don't know if I actually have a process of activating it on purpose, man, but it's just something inside of me. So if I'm driving and I see something that, to me sparks an interest, I'm gonna want to, further investigate that. And I don't know if it's just, I'm not purposely looking for things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just me having an open mind and being ready to accept those things that come, in front of me, and me being able to utilize a gift that, I think, it was given to me. I think, at the end of the day, that's where those opportunities come from. And I think just following through with it, right? A lot of times people see things, and, we may understand it, but if we don't follow through with it and put some action behind it, it's just, it's a dream, So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just think, everything I've went through in life, and those opportunities that present themselves, and then me being able to take advantage of it and execute kind of, made me who I am. So,
No, yeah. I'm a retranslating. You tell me if I'm right. I think you feel something that feels right, and then you go after it. You go forward with it, which it feels like when you do that more consistently, you like keep the stream open.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with you on that. I mean, every time that, you pass something by, I mean, it's not a deal, it's not a go, it might be a no-go, and there's a lot of no-goes, I think, before there's some goes, but I think just having that mindset to understand that, a no gets me one step closer to that yes, so I got to keep my mind open, I got to, be willing to, accept things that, come to me, as well too. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm super interested in that because a lot of people, and you said it earlier too, like a lot of people think that business is supposed to be hard. You know what I'm saying? Because when people are on stage, they go, hard work. I did all this hard work, and you got to do hard work. And I go, and I really go, let's be honest, and people will hate to hear it, the truth. But the truth is the biggest wins are the easiest. What I think, and I want to get both of your perspective, I think was maybe misunderstood. I don't think people who say it on purpose, but I think what's misunderstood is we go into situations with preconceived biases and judgments and limitations that's blocking the flow of the whisper from God. That's, you know what I'm saying? And it takes us banging our head against the wall to be like, all right, I'm gonna let go. And then it flows through, and then you go, I worked hard. You didn't have to.
Right. I agree, man. I think, at the end of the day, man, I think, there's principles and things that, we learn early on, or that, that we evolve to too, I mean, and, you have to have a work ethic, I think, but same time frame too, like, what does your stick-to-itiveness look like? When something doesn't go your way, I mean, what kind of mindset do you have? Are you going to research and do things that you need to do in order to be successful in that area? What does fear look like for you? Are you scared? A lot of times people are they're halted by fear. They can be super successful in business. They have all the skill sets, but they're scared.
Yeah.
So I think it can be a plethora of different things that can hold you back from being successful. But I think, at some point it does become easy, it becomes repetitive, but you have to have a mindset to where, you're going to do it consistently, So I think that's where the hard work comes into it, where it's like, hey, I got to wake up and do this every day. I got to wake up and say, today I'm gonna be a champion again. Even though I won yesterday, that's where the hard part comes into. Can you do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day?
Consistency.
And I often think about it too, like Muhammad Ali said it too. He said he hated every minute of training, hated it, but he said he'd rather suffer now and be a champion later. So
and I think and I'm vibing on this because you're saying some words that are connected somewhere. We need a new word for it, but I feel like work and action are similar.
Yes.
And it's necessary to have things happen on this plane, right? God works through man, right? So the work is necessary, but you don't have to put hard before it. It can feel easy, right? Meaning like we work on this yoga project, and I'm back to working, doing stuff at 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, but I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to me, it's work.
But it's work.
Yeah, but it's because I would do it for free.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But
as a matter of fact, I'm doing it negatively right now because I'm spending money and I haven't really made any money.
I think it's relative to where you assume the breakthrough will happen. Because much of our experience is lived through the lens of other people that have had their experience, and it's influenced how we think. Some of that, it informs how we think, and it's good. Like I would often rather have your experiences of running into a wall and taking that information from you than me going to get the data of running into a wall and turning it into information. So when we can't see when it's going to click, I think that's where we have that that angst about, is it worth it? Is this really my thing? Should I be doing something else? I know something else that worked differently before. Is this investment worth it? Because that's where I am at today o'clock. Right. I know the world I came from. I knew what to expect every 2 weeks.
Right.
I knew what that allowed me as a lifestyle. And I got 5 kids and a wife. And was that really as far as I was supposed to go? Because when I got there, I was a little disappointed because I put a whole lot of stock in getting there, like arriving versus what I was picking up. What they say, the journey is the the win.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So it's kind of like that homeless guy, man. He was talking about, I don't know if you guys saw that on I don't know if it was YouTube or something like that, but he says oftentimes we get to our destination and understand that it wasn't about the destination, it was about the journey, you know. And so, I mean, you speak to some good things there, man. First of all, man, you know, being a family man, with kids and everything, I think it's, super important to understand that work-life balance. A lot of times, we get to our mindsets of wanting to chase, money and thinking that money's our only wealth. And we often miss on the things that are often important also too, So I think there's a balance between, financial wealth and emotional wealth and spiritual wealth and social wealth, and and then understanding time with that too, right? That's our most precious commodity that we have, right? And if we spend all our time chasing one thing that we think is going to bring us happiness, and we spend all our time chasing that thing, and when it's all said and done, we have no more time left.
Right.
I think we've missed the boat, So I mean, I think family is super important. I think but wealth is also too, right? To make sure you have a quality of life. So how do you balance those two things out? So I think that's where, investments come into play, business come into play, real estate, those assets and things that you can acquire that, create wealth that's sometimes independent of your time too, right? And I think that allows you to really balance out, saying I can win some of my time back, where I can spend it in other areas that are, just as important or maybe even more important, spending time with my family, growing my family, traveling, seeing the world, giving back philanthropically, whatever that might be, but we often miss, I think, as people sometimes that don't think outside the box that time is your most precious commodity and you got to figure out how you're going to spend it, at the end of the day. So.
What would you say is, because you kind of jumped into the question, like how do you define wealth? And you started doing that. So I'll put a little twist on it. Today, at right now o'clock, what is the most important non-financial wealth principle in your life?
For me, it's making sure that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that I fulfill my purpose by utilizing my gifts to not only bless myself, but to bless others, And I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like your higher being, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever you call him, I feel like he works through people, and I feel like he works through your gifts. So I think when it's all said and done for me, I want to be able to say, when I had this conversation, when it's all said and done, when I'm gone from here and I meet my creator, for him to be able to say, you know what, you utilize your gift very well and it was purposeful. And at the end of the day, job well done, So for me, that's the most important thing to me,
Yeah. And one thing that we didn't talk about that I want to make sure we bring up is you spend a lot of time like mentoring young men.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what got you into that, and what are some of the blessings you've got from that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a organization called 3D Sports, and it stands for Discipline, Dedication, and Determination. And so right now we use basketball as a tool to build life skills amongst young African Americans. And so, right now we coach basketball. A lot of the kids, are from inner cities, that don't have much, but we use basketball to travel, to expose them to different things, to teach them how to compete and to create, just life skills that are going to be important for them right now, but more importantly, later on in life. And so we try to balance it out with, just the financial side of things, sometimes teaching them about credit and about wealth and creating wealth, teaching them about education. teaching them about history, and that's one thing we didn't talk about too, but just how important history is, because history tends to repeat itself, so for me, I didn't often understand in school why history was so important until I got older, but teaching those kids about things like that too is super, super important. So
I gotta, I'm gonna present this in a very shallow manner, and we just met, so you can feel how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Feel how you feel. You present, and I'm talking shallow aesthetic.
Okay.
You present as a basketball player, not as a businessman. Do you experience that, or has that been your experience? And I'm staging this for conversation because clearly you're a businessman. Have there been challenges with the way you physically present, being a Black man, being what they would say is, my sons look like you.
Okay.
So this is not hypocritical, but just the way you present, I believe it's authentically you.
Right.
Has that been a challenge in any of your environments, and how do you push through it? Because we were starting to get into the code switching conversation.
Right.
Like how important is it for you to be you and win in business?
Yeah, it's super important for me. I rock my long hair, my twist, my beard. I'm trying to grow, even though it won't grow fully right now, but I'm still trying. Right.
And ho. This is a struggle beard, and I'll zoom in because I got the edits. Like this is week 3 and month 8.
I got you. So I'm experiencing some of those same struggles. So.
This is since November 2020.
Right.
Okay. Touche.
But for me, it's super important for me to be able to be authentically me. But at the same time frame too, I understand, the environments that I'm in too. So, I like to dress up sometimes. I like to throw on a suit. I like to stay clean and edged up. And I like to be able to speak well to my peers and the people I may be in front of, because at the end of the day, if I'm trying to acquire some things in business, I have to assimilate to those environments sometimes, but at the same time frame too, I understand who I am. I understand what my goals are, what my objectives are, and what my purpose is. So I try to never forget, still where I come from at the same time. So I think it's very important to be able to adapt to your environments, to authentically be you, but at the same time frame too, to understand that, sometimes, we have to adapt to our environment. So
yeah, I think that there's and maybe it's semantics for me. I think there's a true difference between code switching, like being somebody else for a period of time because of where you are,
right,
and being a part of you in a certain environment because of where you are. Like if I'm holistically all these things, if I'm being this part of me in this environment, am I really code switching?
I get what you mean.
Yeah, I respect that.
So
yeah. Man, since we brought up the Bible, that's Paul wrote about it. Paul was like, "Hey, when I'm over here, I might shave my head. If I go over here, I might do that as to not offend my other brothers and sisters." You know what I'm saying? Like it's probably in Romans, because Romans is that deep one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's cool, man.
About to get a Bible study on, right? Start to wind down, man. Any other?
No, man.
Because I'm thinking like,
go ahead.
Like
he answered
everything you talking about. And for those if it's your first time coming in contact with this particular podcast, is a joint podcast. Well, we saw synergy, right? So Philip's platform, his expertise is wealth management, wealth development. So I'm stealing that along the way. My passion is fatherhood. So dear son, as you're talking about your organization and you kind of pouring in the young men, that's of a big interest to me. And I would love to explore where we could find some synergies kind of in that space, man.
Be a blessing, man. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about here, talking to like-minded people and being able to create synergy and opportunities to grow and be more impactful, so yeah.
I'll ask one question and we can wrap it up. So for those who want to get into investing in real estate, developing in real estate, and they hear the news say, real estate is impossible, right? Office buildings are going, whatever. I don't even know what they say because I don't even listen to them.
Right.
But whatever they say, which is a bad time to get in real estate, which they've said since the beginning of real estate. Like, what would you say to those people who are listening to those people?
That's a good question. So at the end of the day, what I would say to people that are just getting into real estate or, hearing things like that. I say at the end of the day, you can win in real estate in any market, whether the market is high or whether the market is low, by understanding a couple principles. So one of the principles is understanding history. History is going to repeat itself, right? So we're in 2023 now. 2023 may have been just like 2011, which may have been just like 1996, which may have been just like 1981. But we have to do the research on that to study the history. But also understanding economics, right? Buy low, sell high, right? So when we're able to put the history together with the economics, I think it gives us the loaded dice that we need to know to be able to play in any market, right? If the market's high, tells us how to play in a high market, by understanding history and understanding economics. Is it time to buy? Is it a time to sell? Is it time to hold? And then vice versa also too, if it's in a low market, by understanding the same two concepts, history and economics, tells me what maneuvers I need to make. So at the end of the day, I think, we don't, even though it's a form of gambling, real estate, stocks, I think, by understanding how to play with loaded dice, by understanding those concepts will help you to be more successful in any market, So I think we talk about a lot of times with the stock market, being able to read things and, forecast and, there's super important principles that help you to be successful in those arenas. So
it's funny you use those time periods too, because that's my feel for where we are economically too. You said 96, 81, like those are all time periods right before money had to be unleashed at an aggressive level, right? So I was like, yeah.
It's some key dates, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, my takeaway comes from one of the greatest investment minds of our generation.
Me?
No, not
that hasn't proven out yet.
The greatest. I'm sorry, you like top 5, whatever.
Yeah, my story's not done been written yet.
But Cardi B said that
she's a good investor.
Just buy Birkin bags, so they're better than real estate. So
wow.
I don't know how to give you a better investment tip than that, but you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
There's probably some truth to that, right?
Probably so. Yeah.
It's her experience, and what she's seen. Like, you
could flip that on StockX. StockX be like, people be making some money on StockX.
So it's an episode in itself.
Yeah.
But that's been her experience. My experience has been this. This has been a rich conversation, man. Pleasure meeting you and getting to know you during this conversation. Before we wrap, how can people find you if you want to be found?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on all the major social media platforms. So I'm on Instagram. I gotta give you my handles. I think I'm Kev3Butt on Instagram. LinkedIn, they can just search Kevin Butler on there. But yeah, man, definitely tap in, man. Love to kind of meet people and anybody can help people out, man. I'm definitely willing to do that.
Anybody that leads with LinkedIn is about their business. and especially if they don't remember their IG.
Right.
Just follow me on LinkedIn.
Right. There you go.
Anything else?
No, I'm good, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate your show too.
Dope. Awesome. Another episode of the Wealth Blueprint series is in the books. You guys are welcome. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.